Welcome to another episode of Voices. My name is Augustine Ambe, and you are?
Rogers Akemba.
In this episode, I just wanted us to dedicate it to give a response to some of the issues that Paul Biya raised in his speech. But before we go there, I want to say one thing first, and the thing I want to say is that we made a show once where I spent some time trying to say the difference between the concept of a state to La République and the concept of a state to the people of Southern Cameroons. The concept of a state in the Francophone world, the state is the power. They have all the rights. They have all the powers, and then they give their citizens what they want. So the first power is that of the state, and then the state now can decide what rights citizens have. In Southern Cameroons or in the Anglophone system, the people have the rights, and then they give some to the state based on what they think the state is better able to manage than individuals. So let's approach this particular show and approach Biya's utterances in his speech with that in our background. So with that, Rogers, I have a copy of Paul Biya's speech here. It's a long speech, so we're going to try as much as we can to go through some of the points. I think, Roger, the first 2 pages are some of the first 2 or 3 pages is really where certain things, where the lies are very pronounced or where some of the issues are very confused. And I think that's where we should start. Let me start with the first paragraph. He says, for close to 3 years now, the northwest and southwest regions of our country have been going through a crisis that not only jeopardizes the safety and well-being of the population living there, but also the far-reaching consequences for the national community as a whole. Some people who have read this paragraph were saying that Biya was more concerned about the last sentence, about what the crisis have done to the nation La République, than on the concerns of the people of Ambazonia. What do you think?
No, but that is true. He should be concerned because most of the labor, the food, the economy of that country actually depends on us.
Mm-hmm.
So if that part of the country is not functioning, he should be concerned because every other thing on the other side is on borrowed times.
Yeah, but I think the reason why people are saying that is because he's not concerned about the human loss, the thousands of people who have been killed, and the hundreds of thousands that are out of the country suffering as refugees out of their homes.
No, that doesn't bother him. What bothers him is what comes into the coffers.
Okay.
What he can get, what they can steal. And since this part of the country, those coffers are not being replenished, that is what is bothering him.
Okay.
It is not what the people ask for. It is not the killings that the soldiers are doing on our people. It is not the rape. It is not the looting. It is not the burning of villages. That does not bother him.
Mm-hmm.
What bothers him is the drain, the hole that this struggle has put in his treasury.
Okay.
That is what he's concerned about.
Okay. So those who have accused him of being more concerned about the economy are correct.
Yeah, they are correct. They are very correct.
All right. I'm gonna
and let me just add to that, just to reiterate that fact.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we have done a show here where we talked about the so-called Swiss stocks.
Yes.
Where did they come from?
They came from a cocoa buying company that was losing its cocoa.
The economic
an economic aspect, yes.
Yes. So you can see how these things are connected to what comes into his treasury.
Yes.
And all those who are doing business in that particular part of the country
yes.
that are unable to do it.
Yes.
So that is what is concerning to him, not the lives of the people that they have lost or the revendications of the people.
Since you mentioned the Swiss, so those who have been interested in the issues have mostly been interested in the economic loss that they suffer, not on what is happening on the people on the ground.
No, they are not interested in what is happening on the people. They are interested in their inability to do the things that they want to do.
Okay. So, I read the next thing. He says, it should be recalled that the crises were triggered by corporate demands made by lawyers and teachers calling for the translation of the OHADA Uniform Act into English and the preservation of the specificity of the Anglo-Saxon judicial and educational system in the two regions. Take that on. What stands out there for you?
He's that kind of a person that they call an absentee landlord, because he spends a lot of his time in Switzerland or somewhere.
Yes.
And he doesn't know. Because if you go and look at the very beginning of this, when the lawyers went on the street,
yes,
when Barrister Bobga and all the other people, what they said.
Yes.
You see, these people forget what the problem that bothers them, or that they have failed to see, because they still live in the archaic times.
Mm-hmm.
They are in ancient times. So they forget that we are no longer in the age where they had the monopoly of information.
Yes.
We are now in an age where things are documented.
Yes.
And we can go back and look.
Yes.
So they cannot just come back now and tell people that this is what it was. I want to refer you back to when Bala went on that show. They call it
something an Equinox.
Droit sur table or something, whatever they call it.
Yes.
And he made one of those, his funny guys there. I will encourage people, and even we can go back and pull those archives,
mm-hmm,
and you will listen to what Bagala says as far as this is concerned.
Yes.
Because
I think Bobga was on one too, and he was very clear about what the issues were.
Yeah, so those things, that they are in record. So
yes,
it is not like they still believe that they can come out and just say what they want to say, and there is no way where people can go back and say, no, this is what we wrote to you people.
Yes.
This is what we're asking for.
Yes.
And there are pronouncements, and these documents have been written, but as we know, as you have already said so many times, they don't want to talk about what you want to talk about. It's like Musonge going to Abakwa, to Bamenda, and the people in Bamenda tell him exactly what they want. Bobejua, the MP,
yes,
and then he leaves, and they go and write a report about how the people from Bamenda want Ahijo's cops to be repatriated from Senegal.
Okay.
So those are the kind of things.
So the trigger was not this OHADA thing. I think coming back to it, let's concentrate on what the lawyers were asking for and what the teachers were asking for.
Well, this is how I have looked at that problem, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because some of them have actually come out and said, in response to this speech, that the problems that our people are talking about did not start 3 years ago. They started in 1961.
Yes.
And
I was going to come to that, but I wanted to clarify this part. What were the immediate causes? Let's start from 2016, and then we are going to show how it is a false start point. That's what I want to. So yes. I want us to handle it one at a time.
Yes, because the lawyer said, you have decided to bring in civil law judges into our common law courts.
Yes.
And people are being deprived of justice because these civil law judges don't understand how the common law functions.
Yes.
And somebody who has grown and practiced in the common law cannot come into that court and be able to gain justice.
Yes, and they don't, and they do it in French.
Yes, and they do it in French. Get those civil law judges out of our courts and bring in the common law judges. The teacher said the quality of education that the teachers you send to our schools are giving our children is not what we want. We have well-qualified, trained teachers who can teach these students in a language that they understand and the students understand. So get these Francophonized teachers out of our classrooms and bring in our own trained teachers. their response was that, oh, we're going to hire a bilingual.
No, that response came later.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That response
Because
came later.
that is what he said in part of his solutions to the crisis.
Yes.
In his speech.
Okay. So he says the measures taken by government at the end of these consultations went well beyond the initial demands and included the translation into English of the OHADA instruments, the creation of a common law section at the Supreme Court. I'm just giving highlights. Regarding the training of judicial and legal officers, the creation of a common law section at the National School of Administration and Magistracy. This measure was accompanied by a program for the recruitment of English-speaking pupil, judicial and legal officers and court registrars. You know, in what they are saying that they did, it just shows the neglect. Do you agree?
Yeah, because so just imagine that you live because, and I want people to pay attention to this, because these are people who always want to tell us how Cameroon is a country of laws, right? And by their definition, this country is a bilingual country. It is enshrined in their constitution that they like to quote. So how is it that people have to go on the streets to protest for you to then do what is in the constitution?
Yes.
And then come back and begin to tell us that was your response to the thing.
So, and the question is, what has been happening in the last 57 years?
Exactly.
Because Ambazonia or Southern Cameroons came into that union with the whole legal system, didn't they? That was a country that was running with the police force, with the school system, with the legal system, with the legislative house, with an economy of its own. So how come these things are being done in 2017? It just shows the lack. And they put them here very boastfully that, oh, we did it and we went even beyond what they were asking for. And they think that is something. No, it shows more what you have not done and how you have marginalized since you, I mean, and there's a point here where they were saying, oh, people say there was no marginalization. You know, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and his response in trying to demonstrate what they have done just reinforces what we have been saying.
Absolutely.
It helps speak to some of the problems that we have been saying, that look, this is what you people have been doing. And they said, no, there was no problem. Atanganji is even out there recently saying there is no problem. We don't have a problem.
Yes.
But then they are here trying to solve a problem.
Then they are here trying to solve a problem. Hear this, okay? It says, you know, I just want to go here. I made a note here to myself. It says regarding the training of legal, then he talked about how they're going to train all these programs and English-speaking people, judicial, and you know, when they even talk about all these English-speaking pupils that they will hire, I tell you what they will do. They'll go and hire francophones who can speak English, and you know, I went and listened to the speech that Bala made as the president of the consortium in 2016. One of the things he said there about bringing in these francophone judges, and I know there's a program where Barrister Bobga also said that all the other personnel of the courts were also francophones, a majority of them, and that what Barrister Bala said that what that did was that it took them out of work. It did not only mess up the court, but it was taking their jobs away from them.
Yeah.
And so when they talk about bringing that they're trying to bring all these English-speaking pupils, in the final analysis, it doesn't guarantee that it will be Southern Cameroons who are having these jobs. Yeah, you understand? All right. So he says the setting of the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism. All of that we've already tried. That we don't have a bilingual problem. So now you can make the point, Pa, that they make as though these problems started in 2016. No, the problems did not start in 2016. When did the problems really start? When was the problem of Southern Cameroon really start in that Cameroon entity?
Well, it started in 1961. It started with the United Nations granting us independence by joining.
Yes.
Because now, whatever was agreed upon, the United Nations was supposed to come back, the United Nations was supposed to be there, all of those people disappeared. And the Ahijo, together with France, came in and started cooking this thing. So they brought, first of all, they brought the La République Constitution, adopted that constitution in the Republic Parliament, I think it was on the 30th of September, 1961, before we even gained independence as a federal constitution.
Yes.
So you can see, so if these lawyers are complaining today about some of the problems that they have, they want to be corrected today, those problems started from that inception.
Yes.
From that point where these people came, they went to Fumban, the United Nations was absent, the France and La République was there. They knew all along that they wanted to take us for a ride.
Yes.
We were coming into this with all honesty. They started taking, they dismissed people, took Mona, took them to Yaoundé, brought in their own controllers, just bit by bit, went to 1972, said, oh, we are tired of this federal thing, it's too expensive, let's do the unity state, all the way to 1984, and here we are today.
Yes.
So these things did not just start in 2016. They started in 1961. Actually, they started with the United Nations failure to act on that resolution 1608 in the way it was. Our own self-government, our own self-determination was not given. So that decolonization process failed in 1961. And that is the origin of these problems.
Yes.
It is not something that started in 2016. It started from 1961.
Yes. And I'm glad you went back into the United Nations, because one of the things that the French did was go and try to cook the whole process, even in the United Nations. You know what I'm saying? But they cannot cook it. And like I said, I'm glad you said the problem started at the United Nations, because at the United Nations, Gojidinka has argued that the United Nations mandate in the southern Cameroons was give the people their independent or self-government. And in all those processes, there has to be a legal process. So independence by joining does not really give you self-government or independence, does it?
No, it doesn't. And you see, if you go back and look at Tico, when the Union Jack was lowered, we did not get independence. We didn't get self-government.
Yeah,
because the British gave the flag to who?
To La République.
To Ahijo.
Yes.
So that right there.
Yes.
It shows it.
So Biya is very wrong that this thing started with some or harder stuff. It did not. It's a problem that goes all the way back at the United Nations.
Well, let us somehow agree with him that it is Ohada that precipitated it. That is the immediate cause. Okay, let us give that to him.
Yes,
that is the immediate cause of this crisis. But we have been saying all along, and everybody has been saying that to solve that immediate cause that you are trying to solve that with dialogue, you have to go to the root causes.
Yes.
Because if you don't go to the root causes, then you will be addressing the thing superficially.
Yes, I think the only reason why I want to emphasize that is because Paul Biya wants to come across to the world, because really he's not addressing all his speech was not about us. In fact, I was reading a commentary by I think it's Financial Times, and Financial Times was saying that this conflict in Cameroon has a language dimension, and that Paul Biya addresses the Anglophone problem in French. You know what I'm saying? So no, this problem goes deeper than that. That is our first page. The rest is talking lies about how how at the humanitarian level, I decided to launch a large-scale assistance plan for our affected compatriots and all that. That you saw, you saw some of what it was, right? You remember we did a show where they took a few bags of rice and went to Manfe and put B people lined up there, supposed to be the B who had just gone to Manfe, murdered people and burned their villages, turned around again and then they put rice and they were bound down. You remember that picture?
Yeah, but he went around and collected money from people.
Yes.
We have always told our people that these people, they don't, anything that they do, as you just said a few minutes ago, they don't do it to address the problem that they have at hand. Their audience is the international community.
Yes.
Remember, before they started their donations that they went and collected money from everybody in the country, that they were going to give help to the internally displaced people. The United Nations was coming up with a relief package.
Yes.
So they quickly jumped up, went and did scramble to do this, and they didn't even know what they were doing. And you did not see anything go anywhere.
But you know why they did that? They did not want the UN to come into the country because they are going to see the atrocities that they are committing.
Yeah, but they, and unfortunately, the people are so dumb and stupid, because you would think that if they even collected some of that money, you would even want to pretend and show the international community that we are doing something. But have you seen anywhere where the money they collected? At least we saw in Bangolan or somewhere where Atanga and Jipol went and burned people's houses and then claimed that they were Amber boys who had crossed into Bangolan and burned people's houses there. And the government at that point brought those people mattresses. I think they brought them zinc and all those things, right?
And because that was real, you saw it.
Yes.
Because they were trying to prevent the rebellion from spreading.
No, what they were showing that they were being responsive, and we even commented that we have never seen the Republic respond in such alacrity.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So this was something that Asang and Jipol had staged. So if they had even
and they brought the cameras and everything.
Yes. So if they had even done something like that with some of the money that they went and collected from everybody, then somewhere he can have something to hang his hat on.
Yeah.
But there is nothing.
Yes, I think they took that and went and bought arms to come and kill the Amber boys.
Yes.
Okay. Pay attention to this, okay? It says the supposed feeling of marginalization by the people of the Northwest, Southwest region has often been advanced to justify this crisis. On this score, I wish to remind our compatriots in these regions, but also to those in the other 8 regions of Cameroon, that marginalization, exclusion, or stigmatization have never guided the work of the various governments I have formed since I became president of the country. Though no human endeavor, let's just answer that. So he's saying that marginalization has never guided his. Is that true?
Well, I don't know who he's talking to. Like the person in the Financial Times that we just spoke about told you that he was addressing us in French. Is that a form of marginalization?
It is.
Because we are obligated
to now work to understand or go get translators to understand what he's saying.
Yes. So is that marginalization?
Absolutely.
So are we the same citizens?
We are.
No, yeah, but what is it?
No, we're supposed to be.
Yes. So that is why it is difficult. We say that it is difficult to tell a lie.
Yes.
Because you forget yourself.
Yes.
And you just expose yourself to the world as you try to lie to the world. Because those are aspects, and we can name all of them. I cannot tell you how many people that have worked, saved for retirement, and have died in Yaoundé trying to collect their pensions, and they are being told that I don't understand what you are saying. Go back to that your Bamenda or wherever you come from, because I don't understand the language that you speak. Why? Because that person cannot speak French. A lot of people have died in Yaoundé. Why should somebody who worked in Furawa and retired in Furawa have to travel to Yaoundé and then have to speak French and pay somebody in Yaoundé in order to be able to get a pension that they have worked and saved all their lives?
I want to introduce something here, and I want to support, even if it's just by a 0.00%, what Paul Biya just said. Okay, he said that I wish to remind our compatriots in these regions, but also to the rest of the country, that marginalization, exclusion, or stigmatization have never guided the work of various governments I have formed since I became president of our country. I can tell you where the only grain of truth is, because this marginalization really does not come from Paul Biya, because you know that Paul Biya really does not, as an African, really does not benefit from there. The marginalization is designed from Paris. Remember that there's a documentary that is saying that the demolition of the government of the Southern Cameroons was instituted by France when they wanted to build the oil refinery in our territory. In Victoria. So they told, beginning with Ahidjo, they told him to dismantle that government. And the reason why they did that was because they wanted to make our territory become part of La République du Cameroon, so that they can extend their colonial cooperation agreements, which makes France the country that will say, because those agreements say, I would take any resources that I want before you can have them, or you have the choice to sell to anybody else. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So when Paul Biya says this, he's saying that any marginalization that has come about came because, not because of my government, but because of the macro government, the colonial government that manages the place. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, it makes sense, but that is an extension, because we are looking at these things from every facet. But he underscores, he substantiates the lack of marginalization by the fact that the prime minister that he has appointed for all his governments has always come from that part of the world. And
I'm going to come to that, and that is one of the stupidest thing that he said. Mm-hmm. But so Paul Biya is saying that, you know what, myself as Paul Biya, it has never been my intention to do these things, but he has been instructed by the larger colonial power that have put him there to then do those things. So it starts with Ahidjo. No, you remember, even in Fumban, it was designed, the French people were there, and they said, don't sign any agreement. Here's what you need to read. You read it, and Foncha believed that they were supposed to come back, and they never came back. So when the lawyers, and part of what the lawyers were asking for in this thing where Paul Biya believes that it started with the translation or had that document. No, the lawyers got to a point where they're saying, show us the act of union. And there is no act of union, because they started playing these games right from there. And that's part of the marginalization, and all of that was being engineered by the French, and knowing that they can protect them. So I'm going to give that to Paul Biya, that, you know what, yes, you are micromanaged from Paris, but somehow you are the person on the ground and you are being blamed. But so Ahidjo played his own part in terms of destroying the economy, destroying the government, and then creating the 1972 referendum, all of them illegal. But Paul Biya then took over. And remember what he did in 1994. Mm-hmm. Explain that, please.
Well, we have done that already, because then he returned the country back to La République.
Yes.
So some of these things, we have spent enormous time explaining and elaborating on these things. So the country that was called La République is what we have now.
Yes.
And we are saying we have to have our Southern Cameroons.
And so the question is, what happens to Southern Cameroons?
Yeah.
Yes. And so from there, Paul Biya took over, and now the silliness of his appointments of prime ministers from the Southern Cameroons started making sense, because Southern Cameroons used to elect their own prime ministers, and now he goes and handpicks any hand clapper or any yes person that he wants, and then says, that's your prime minister, right?
But and you see this struggle too, because he says that without any shame. Remember during this struggle, when Phil Menyang was in Bamenda, trying to talk to the teachers and the lawyers and stuff like that, the other guy, Laurent Esso, was in Yaoundé saying something very contrary to what the prime minister is saying.
Yes.
Who is supposed to be his boss?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because the guy has no authority.
No, and let's talk about the prime minister a little more, and then we may just skip when we come there, because Paul Biya said, "Prime Minister, head of government." Is the head of government has the head of government ever? No. Let me ask you this: who is the head of government in La Republique?
It is Biya now.
Is there anybody who is second to Biya?
No. Well, don't ask me. Ask them. Because
no, you're answering the question, Pan. I think you're answering them correctly.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that that the answer for that question should come from the statements of even the prime minister himself, because everywhere they go, they say Papa has said, the head of state has said, the head of state has said.
Remember, he said when he went to Bamenda, he said. Did he say Papa in that case?
Yes.
Okay. He said Papa has asked me to come and tell you that.
Yes.
Is that the head of government?
Yes.
You know,
so that answers that's what I was saying. I don't ask me, because their statements themselves answer that question.
But let me say this, okay? Dr. Monzo was in the United States in 1996, and he went through a process how when Paul Biya was prime minister, he actually had powers.
Mm-hmm.
When they were going to bring Achidi Achi to be prime ministers, they took all the powers from the role of prime minister and gave it to the secretary, to the secretary general. And Monzo explained that then they put francophones who actually have power surrounding the prime minister.
Yes, that's exactly what happens.
Yes. So in fact, the post of prime minister actually had powers before all these hand-picked Anglophones, what they call Anglophones, Southern Cameroonians, when they started giving they strip all the powers there, and that's why you see him using the word Papa. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. In a show that we just recently did, Terence talked about infantilization of the population in La Republique, and it is that infantilization that makes an old turncoat as Musonge and all the other people to go around calling Biya Papa.
Mm-hmm.
Because, let me ask you this. I was going to, do you see any secretary or undersecretary or any official of the United States or of Britain or of any other country that is a country of laws calling the president Papa or the prime minister Papa? Have you ever heard it?
I don't even know what to say.
You know that they don't even call their president father of the nation. They call him president, who has a job to do, and whenever he doesn't do that job, they criticize him, and if he's still not doing it, they throw him out.
Or the minister resigns. Yeah, they resign.
No, I'm talking about the Papa himself.
Yeah, well, I'm saying even because these people, they don't have.
Oh, you mean if they're not doing the job with him, he resigns?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that so that we take that out of the picture, because, but you know, this now you see when Paul Biya says that, it tells you about how the state, the power of the state. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You remember one of the French kings say, "L'État c'est moi."
Mm-hmm.
So Paul Biya is saying, "L'État c'est moi. I have given you prime ministers. I have all the prime ministers I've given to you," and so it's shameful in this day and age. He doesn't even know how ridiculous that looks to other people listening to that.
No, but because, as you rightly says, he is the Alpha and the Omega. So what it is only us who have the ability to come and question him now, and we have enabled some talking heads in the Republic to be able to do that by our actions.
We have.
Yeah, because so he knows that what he says goes. So he can come and say all these things and say them confidently, and then the errand boys will go out there and say, Papa has said I should come and say this, or Papa has said you should do this. He has said, oh, let us organize a dialogue. Then he gets on the plane and takes out of the country and say the Prime Minister will head that dialogue. So errand boys can go back out there now and do whatever they want to do, and then he will come back and do what he wants to do.
Let's say something about that Prime Minister heading the dialogue. Okay. The Prime Minister is a Southern Cameroonian, what I call a turncoat. But this is a man who has been fighting this, who has been the lawyer of La République, fighting the people of Southern Cameroon in Banjul. Remember? Diongute was that person. Now, when things, do you also notice that these francophones, these French trained people, they have one. I mean, they have a cookie cutter that they use in everything. The French said, we will make one of them, we will take one of them and let him rule them. He's a person we've chosen, but we impose him and he'll become our man among them, right? So Paul Biya turns around, and whenever there are any issues of crisis among ourselves, they will even do the unthinkable. They will take a Tanganji and make him the Minister of Territorial Administration. That's a position which is, I think that position was actually being appointed from Paris.
Yes.
They put a Tanganji there and say, go and take care of your own.
A mad dog.
Yes. A criminal. They say, go and take care of your own. And so they realize that, things are really getting hard and Bamenda is leading all this rebellion. So they make Ngute go and take care of your own. And so they're telling him now, oh, we're going to make a dialogue now. So Ngute, you go and take care of your own. Ngute does not qualify because, first of all, before I say the one, I was going to say, first of all, he's not a neutral party. So this was supposed to be a dialogue to resolve an issue of conflict. So we need a third party, and that dialogue doesn't need to take place in Yaoundé. It doesn't need to take place in Paris. It doesn't need to take place in Nigeria. I will even include London in that one.
Let me. I don't. And that is where I have kind of disagreed with people a little bit, because he is calling a dialogue for his La République, right? He said there are lots of parts of La République that have problems, and they can come together and talk about those problems. What you and I have to sit back now and watch for is who in the far north or in the extreme north of La République is preparing a list of grievances, and who in the eastern part of La République is preparing a list of grievances that they want to bring to that dialogue. You understand?
Yes.
That is what we should be looking for, because he has said, no, the country, and a lot of them have gone on different social media networks or TV and said those things, that every person in La République has their own problem.
Yes.
So the guy has organized a national dialogue. So I am waiting now to see who in Bafang or in Bangante or in Kongsamba, let them prepare their files with their problems and go to their national dialogue.
Yes. So yeah, I was going to add, I was still coming to that.
So
the question that you're trying to answer was, is this the national dialogue that the whole world has been calling for? Obviously, you're saying it is not.
No, it is not, because we did not say that we are part of La République, that we want to have a national dialogue with La République. We have a conflict with La République. So for people to begin to scramble around, and yes, maybe Munzo or Tumi or all the other people or Tanganji who are citizens of La République who want to have a dialogue with Biya and the people from the east and the south and the north and the far north or whatever, yeah, they can go and have their dialogue. They can sit down and talk about their dialogue. But the problem that we have is not a problem of a national dialogue.
Roger, what I wanted to do was to go through what he calls a speech that the world has been talking about, in which he tells a lot of lies. He takes crimes that he and his neo-colonial troops have committed, crimes that the U.S. Congress has termed genocide, crimes that the Swiss have called genocide, and he wants, somehow he takes everything that they have done and he's trying to say our people have done it. And what I wanted us to do was to kind of trash those so that we put, but you have, what you've basically done is gather the whole thing and throw out, because you're saying that's not the dialogue that has anything to do with us.
Well, the international community can laud him for calling a dialogue, right? They can praise him. They can say whatever they want to say about the dialogue. There is, if he has said, in that speech, there is somewhere where he said the dialogue is not going to only involve what is happening in the Northwest and the Southwest. Did he say that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it is a national dialogue for the whole territory. So what I'm interested in is to see what the people in the East are preparing as their own grievances to go to national dialogue. What the people in the South, in San Malima, are preparing to go to national dialogue. What the people in Marwa are preparing to go to national dialogue. And what
no, but that's a different country. So since you are saying this is not even about us, I mean, there's really no point going through it, because they can have their national dialogue with their prime minister they appoint, but it's not going to solve the. I wanted to go through this, trash it before we even come and talk about whether this even involves us, and then you can answer. And then the next thing is that we should talk about, we should advise our own people on how to continue what they've been doing.
No, see, and I think that is what Terence told you, because that is a waste of our time.
Mm-hmm.
What he discussed in there, and you rightly said so, is for a specific audience.
Yes.
And you and I, we are not going to begin to go and, because we have talked about all of those things, and we know that he is not interested in addressing the issues. He is going, what he is doing with his prime minister and in placating the international community, whoever is addressing, is to ask John Gute to call whoever he wants to call as our own representatives. He's going to ask his errand boys to call whoever they want to call, and then they will come, just like in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
It was Achidi Achu who played that game.
Mm-hmm.
After we had gone through AAC 1 and AAC 2, then they came and they played these games and they ignored everything that we proposed. Now it is John Gute's turn to do the game. He has said it, he has taken off, so John Gute is left now to make sure that he delivers. And he's going to call his errand boys and make sure that he delivers. So what we are telling the international community is that whatever they are dialoguing, that is not part of our problem. Our problem has been what happened in 1961, what we agreed on in 1960, what the United Nations told us, what our people voted for, and what we got in 1961 up to 1984, and from 1984 upwards. That is the problem that we want to address, and that problem is not going to be addressed by somebody in La Republique. It is going to be addressed by the party that created that problem. If the United Nations doesn't have the capacity to address it, then she is going to go out there and look for the competent organizations that she thinks is going to address that problem. That is when we are going to talk.
Well, let me say this though, and I'm going to say this in terms of why we're looking at this detail, because there's some people who haven't spent time to understand some of the issues like you and I understand, and who Paul Biya is lying to them, believing that they will believe the lies and be helpful to him in sabotaging us. Because you see, Paul Biya's intention is not to solve our problem, but is to lie like they have been working with Michelle Bachelet. What's his name again? Michelle what?
Yeah, the human rights.
The head of the human rights.
Yeah, that's her name.
Yes. I don't know if I don't know what they do to them to go and start lying.
No, she is not. Look, the Commonwealth came out with a statement right after he made his speech calling for the dialogue. The Commonwealth came out with a statement, but for all the years that we have been protesting in front of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth cannot even defend its own charter, because if the Commonwealth could live by its charter, like we would not be part of the Commonwealth today.
No.
Like we would have been suspended. So what I'm saying, and let me say this very clearly, is that whoever the international community, and I'm saying this to our people, they are going to hold their dialogue, and I will see how that their dialogue will change the status quo of the problem that we are talking about. Because if they think that they can dodge that problem and try to solve a different problem, and then the problem will resolve itself, they are lying to themselves.
No, it's not going to happen.
So whoever believes his statements, believes these things that he is saying, and they don't want to do the hard work of understanding what are the root causes of the problem, and let us go and solve the root causes of the problem. Well, you are going to dance his dance, he will play the music, you will dance, and at the end of the music, you will still come back to find out why is it that these people are bent on dying to solve the problems that were created by the United Nations.
Yes, and while all of that is going, there is a genocide going on right now in Amazonia, and somehow, and do you know we've been saying this, and every time everybody comes and says, "Oh, have a dialogue." Now, let me ask you a very big question: Does this thing here? Do you think it helps Paul Biya, or it helps us? It helps the Amazonian cause, because the whole world has been saying, "Oh, have a dialogue, have a dialogue." Now Paul Biya had a dialogue. We knew that this guy would never come. Does this now answer their question, and does it answer the question in favor of Paul Biya or in favor of the Amazonian fighters?
No, it answered the question in our favor, because this is exactly what we have been saying, that this guy is not interested in addressing the problems, and that is why he came with the gun. When these lawyers came out and the teachers came out and said, "Hey, these are the problems." I remember in 1993, 1994, the London communique. These documents are all there. The Biya Declaration. When this thing started in 2016, that was almost 25 years from when we had the Biya Declaration, and the things that we are asking, they are the same.
They've not changed.
So when he comes out now, when we are at this level, and says this is how he wants to solve the problem, then the international community now should then see what we have been saying.
Yes.
This reinforces and reiterates and underscores what we have been saying.
Yes.
That if the international community thinks that the fox is going to take care of the hen house, they are losing their mind.
Yes.
They need the United Nations. The United Nations, through the Secretary General of the United Nations, also congratulated him on that initiative.
Yeah, but I think I got some clarification there.
So all of the people who have been mute, who have refused to say anything, are now coming out and say, "Oh yes, finally, that dialogue is dialogue for La République. It is not dialogue with us."
Let me ask you another question. If Paul Biya actually came and said some of the things that we're expecting, would you even sit in a conference with Paul Biya?
Well,
what has been the history of us having conferences with La République du Cameroun? I think that's where my question is going.
No, and we have said that we are not going to sit with them again like before, because they will always want to play games. At this point, our people came up with peace plans, and they came with the gun and shot at us. They shot on the 22nd of September 2017. They shot on October 1st. And our people said that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. And they have resolved. He came out and said he was, in November 30th, he said he's declaring war. He came out in his New Year's speech and said he was going to crush us. All of those things have not been able to. France came in, they went to Chad, they brought their military from there, they brought military from everywhere. They borrowed money from China, they did everything. What they have not succeeded to do is to crush our resolve.
And they will not. I want to say a few things before you continue. I want to say two things. One is that our history of negotiating one-on-one with La République is that one, first, they do not come as La République. They come with the French in the house. And they come and they violate everything and cause a lot of atrocities and crimes because they know the French are protecting them abroad. And the French have actually said that they have been protecting Paul Biya.
Yes, but that is why the things have happened to us worse than what happened to Rohingya Muslims. And we've said that on this show.
Yes.
But you have seen the coverage and the attention that the Rohingya Muslims have gotten more than us.
And so the first conference we had with La République was in 1961 in the Fumban conference. The light.
No, before then at the United Nations.
Well, that is that is something that the United Nations should take care of because that's their thing.
You're right.
I'm talking when we've met one-on-one with La République.
Yes.
We met in Fumban. What happened in Fumban, that was supposed to be a constitutional conference where we meet, and Foncha is very clear about what we're meeting for. We're supposed, La République brought their own draft, and then we were supposed to then get together again and decide on the structures or the institutions that will run the federal government and what issues will be handled by a federal government in a two-state federation of equal partners. What La République did was that they wrote the constitution, came and put it there, took the pictures for their photo ops, took the delegation and they went partying. They gave them all the food. You know, there's a book written by an American from Paris or who lived in Paris, how the French negotiate. When you come, they throw you a 5-course meal, treat you really well, but you leave that conference with no substance. And that's what they did in Fumban. But that was the best. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Then, you remember there was a tripartite conference again in 1990, 1990-something.
1991.
Yes, where our people went there. I'm thinking about Monzo, Professor Carlson Anyangwe, and who else? There were about 3 of them. They totally sidelined them, and that ended with nothing. Yes. So we've had a history of meeting with these people, and they have always lied.
Benjamin Etoy was the one. That one was different because the reason they were sidelined in 1991 was because La République did not want to face the music they were playing.
No, but it's the same thing. They did not want to face the music in Fumban because they know that if they actually went into a constitutional conference and deal with the issues as spelled out in the plebiscite in the plebiscite 2 alternative, we will today be a federation. We will never ever be part of La République du Cameroun as absorbed right now, and there will have only been 8 issues that will be decided. But these people came with a colonial agenda. So we have a history where we will not meet, and it's the same thing repeating itself here. The other thing I wanted to say is that when this struggle started, you started talking about the killings, right? Mm-hmm. When this struggle started, La République du Cameroun, you know, they did kill people in Commercial Avenue when the thing just started. Then I think it was the 22nd of September or 1st October 2017. What they started what they started doing, they used to shoot people and carry the corpse away.
That was October 1st.
Remember? They would shoot and carry the corpse away because they were afraid of all these killings for absolutely no reason. They were illegal killings. But the world did not react. The UN did not say anything. Nobody said anything.
And they were emboldened.
And so they kept killing and then became emboldened. And then they started killing and not carrying the corpse. Nobody said anything. And then the duo of Manfe told the people of Manfe, I think they named like 6 counties or something like that. that all the citizens there should get out of there. Otherwise, if they come, they will call them insurgents. Remember?
The terrorists.
Yes. And then they went and burned those villages and killed people, left them there. We have the videos. Nobody said anything, and so they now became emboldened that they are shooting and killing these people, and nobody is saying anything. They've burned these villages. Nobody in the world is saying anything. The UN is not saying anything. And so they now went on a rampage and burned, I think they've burned close to 300 villages now. The one thing with the statistics that people keep giving, the statistics don't increase, but they are murdering people every day. Until now, they can shoot 4 months old in the head with 10 bullets and leave it there.
And strip them naked.
They shoot people, put them on the street, strip them naked now. And you remember, and so La Republique takes these things, and then you hear the international community start saying, oh, there's violence on both sides. When you do that, what are you doing? You're emboldening the La Republique and the French, right? Mm-hmm. And this is how the same thing they did in the Rwandan genocide. And you know, these things, they just have a way of repeating themselves. In Rwanda, what happened was that the Belgians called the Americans and said, we're out of here, and things just went down from there. And in 100 days, they killed close to 1 million people, and nobody said a thing. So when you are talking about killings and people are talking about genocide now, these are criminals. They are criminals managed by the French, and everybody is protecting French interests. I don't know why they're doing that. Remember, they went to Ivory Coast. The UN went there. The Nigerians were there. ECOWAS was there. Why? Because they wanted to kick Gbagbo out. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And Gbagbo had only been in power for 10 years. 10 years of insurgents where the French were involved. And so when I say they are protecting French interests, whenever the French want some African leader to be out, the whole world comes down and they call them clinging to power, and they give them all kinds of bad names. When the French doesn't want the leader to leave, they cause genocide there, and nobody says a word. What is going on, my brother? What is going on?
Well, Gaddafi threatened Benghazi and said he was going to go and smoke all the rats out of their holes. He was bombed and he was killed.
The whole of NATO, with American firepower, came down on Gaddafi.
Yes. He did not go to Benghazi as he had threatened.
No. It was just a threat.
Yeah. These guys have called us rats, dogs, and they have been killing us for all these years.
For 2 years now.
And nobody has said anything. But what I know is that our people have had enough. And I have always said it is only the people who are going to decide what happens to them. It is not anybody sitting in any office in New York or in Paris or in any other place. So they can hold their dialogue, they can do whatever they want to do. At the end of the day, if they don't want to come and talk to our people, if they don't want to release our people that they have locked up for no reason, and I hear some people say they should declare general amnesty. What amnesty? The people, Manchu BBC has been locked up, sentenced to 15 years, Ayub Tabe and all the other people, all the people that they have arrested, transferred to Yaoundé, tried in a military court against international law and sentenced. Nobody has said anything. So I have...
And they committed really no crime.
No crime. And some people sit today and say they should declare general amnesty. That the people committed what crimes? So what I am saying is that I have always believed in our people. I have always believed they believe in the right thing. They are fighting a just cause. And for that cause, they are prepared to pay with their lives. That is what they have been doing for all these years. So the international community can get in bed with La Republique and encourage La Republique to hold its dialogue. But nothing is going to change. We are going to solve, as we have decided for the past couple of years, this is the time that we will solve this problem for once and for all. This problem would never be transferred to another generation.
No. And
this is the time. So Everybody put on your seatbelts. It is going to be a very, very rough ride. But at the end of the day, we'll come out victorious.
And the thing that we want to say is that there is a right and there is a wrong. There's morality and there's immorality. The world has talked about never again. If this was happening to Europeans, you think it will continue?
No.
You think they allow them to be murdered like this?
No.
What did Africans ever do? What did the Ambazonians do? The Ambazonians obeyed the Germans. The Ambazonians obeyed the British. And let me talk about this obedience. When Britain first took over the southern Cameroons, or it's part of Cameroon, it incorporated as part of Nigeria. The League of Nations said, no, that is international territory. It needs to be given a mandate. And so it went back to become a League of Nations mandate. It was guided by law. Then the UN takes over and say, we're going to create these mandates will become trusteeship, trust territories. And in those trust territories, they will end up either being independent or have self-government. You know, one of the fraudulent things that you see Paul Biya is trying to do, he's trying to say, all these prime ministers I'm giving, they're the ones now governing. No, that's not true. That's not true, because the UN, and I like the way Barrister Boga puts it. You know, he says that the UN says, you Southern Cameroon, there will be no independence air in the Southern Cameroon. If you want to breathe independence air, you must breathe La République's independent air. And then Barrister Boga says, the amount of air that Ambazonia will breathe, the amount of independent air that Ambazonia will breathe would be dependent on what the people of La République give. You understand? Mm-hmm. So the people of Ambazonia have never had independence or self-government as it was proclaimed by law. And so, I think you're probably right that we should throw this away, because, you know, it doesn't matter. The truth doesn't even matter, does it?
No, it doesn't matter. And as I've said, the international community can get in bed with him. They can give him all the funding, give him all the resources to organize his dialogue. At the end of the day, they will see that it is a wasted time and a wasted resource. We have a problem that we would like to solve. We would like to sit down with the international community to answer what Resolution 1608 was supposed to do.
But I don't even go to, and I want them to go back, because, you know, all of those were even based on manipulation by the French.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
We want to go back to the trusteeship agreement. The United Nations had, and Gojidinka argues this very well, the United Nations mandate in Southern Cameroon was not to take Southern Cameroon and give it to Nigeria or to La République du Cameroon. It was not to do that. It was to give them independence or self-government.
Yes, and
they did not do that.
Yes, and that is what 1608 was a vote to determine if we were right for that independence or self-government.
We were right.
Yes.
Gojidika argues that we were right by 1958.
Yes, and that is what 1608 established. So, like any other decolonized state, trusteeship territory, you came to that point, and it was voted that yes, now you can be independent. And after that, then the game started. So we did not get what was promised to us. So that is a dialogue that we are going to have. And our people will then be allowed to decide. We have to talk to ourselves, not under the gun or under the influence of La République.
One of the things that one of the important things about why I wanted to go through this was to establish the facts. But it is not for you and I to sit here and establish the facts. The international community has a process by which you have to send a fact-finding mission into that troubled area. And you've been talking about the Rianga people, right?
Yeah,
They actually did have a fact-finding mission when there.
Yes.
Why can't they send a fact-finding mission to the Southern Cameroons? Is it because France does not want you to? Does France, who is still a colonial power in Africa today, do they have a standing to be telling the rest of the world what to do? They are committing war crimes and colonial crimes in Africa today. Is France the country that should be telling the rest of the world what to do? Do you know the deputy prime minister of Italy a few months came out and was very clear about some of the colonial crimes that France is committing.
And we have covered that on our show. Like you said, when we come out and say these things or present the facts as we are saying, they say we have a vested interest. We are biased. But it is their responsibilities because we have respected every single directives or treaty or agreement that have been handed to us as a people.
But let me say, I think we've said that. But let me say something here. You know, when the truth is on your side, you really have nothing to lie about. So what is there to send a fact-finding mission? Do not ask Paul Biya to give it because Paul Biya is the one committing the crimes. So why would you want him why would you be waiting on him to open the door for you to come and commit the crime? And he manipulates. And the reason why he manipulates and they fall for it is because they all have connived that the French have to keep that territory. It is wrong. It is wrong. Until the French leave Africa, Africa will not grow because that's the only colonial power that is there right now. They are committing these crimes left and right, and what they do in Ambazonia is a repeat of what they did in Rwanda. And the world is sitting again. How many times do we want to see this happen?
So we have fought for everything that we have. We fought for the right for our students to sit for the right GCE exams. We have fought for everything. We started a fight again, and Biya wants to come and address the problems of his country. Every time we stand up and sacrifice blood, it
gives him an opportunity to solve the problems of his own country.
Yes.
Doesn't his own countrymen have?
So
can't they stand and talk on their own behalf?
This time,
why do they always wait for us to be the ones who wants to address our issues, and then he takes it and makes it become a thing where he wants to address the concerns of his country?
So he can address the concerns of his people, but it won't change the status quo. I am begging on you to stay focused, keep your resolve, and keep the resistance. This is a duty that we as a people owe it to each other, and we are going to execute and defend and die for what we believe in. There is nothing greater in this world than to die for what we believe in, and our people have shown that resolve and determination to die for the right to be free. I salute you.
Yes, I'm going to add one more little thing, Rogers. Every single Ambazonian that they have killed is an investment in our freedom. Every Ambazonian who, instead of lying on their beds right now, are lying under the rain in a forest, opening themselves to rain, to snakes, to mosquitoes. It's an investment in our struggle. And this time, this is the last time we'll have to solve this problem. Because only cowards die 1,000 times. We are not cowards. We've never been cowards. This time we are either a free people or we'll live to die. You have any other closing word, Pa?
Well, as the days go by, the struggle is getting more difficult. And I hope and pray that we stay the course. There are times that we have not been able to come as often as we would like to keep up with you. But it is because of our commitments to the struggle. I, for one, might not be able to come so regularly because of other things that I'm involved in. I don't know how they will end, but it is for the struggle. It is for a good cause. And whatever happens, Mr. Ambi will be able to come and tell you why I couldn't be on the show. So long, good night, stay blessed, and stay the course. Thank you.